Welcome back. We're here to preview Saturday's lunchtime kick-off in the Premier League between Southampton and Aston Villa. Pascal, start with the away side. Good form at the moment. Another good win over West Ham last time.
Yeah, very impressive, wasn't it? It's now 3 straight home wins for them. And you look at the game, and West Ham, they go into that. West Ham, they've never been in the relegation battle because of how good they were the first half of the season. But since the turn of the year, they've been a completely different team. Nowhere near the best. The sort of form they were showing. Around Christmas they were doing brilliantly, weren't they? But since then they've been a team out of form. And I think Villa would have started that game as favourites, given how well they played under Sherwood. Especially at Villa Park. And the game, it was quite a tight game in the end, just one goal settled it. Tom Cleverley with the goal. That's now 3-3 for him, so he's sort of hitting his best form at the moment. And it was a well-worked goal, wasn't it? Grealish, he's playing quite well at the moment as well, sort of an exciting prospect. He gets down the left, cuts it back, and Cleverley couldn't really miss from where he was. It was a solid finish from him, and they just held it out quite well after that. I don't think it was that surprising to see Villa, see out the result, because they've got so much more to play for than West Ham. They're not safe yet, Villa, and they're still in that relegation battle. And it was a good solid win from them, and like you say, good form, and the job Sherwood's done, he's done fantastically.
I think we need to probably be fair to say when Sherwood took over, they were in big trouble, weren't they, under Paul Lambert, didn't score for ages, and people thought they were one of the favourites to go down, but it's 4 wins in 5 now, and we're sitting in the table, obviously 14th in the table, 4 points clear of the bottom 3, and there's still a win here would obviously make them safe, but you still fancy them, wouldn't you? There's 4 points, teams below them, Sunderland, Newcastle, Hull, are they really going to surpass them? I'm not too sure. So sitting in 14th, and on the face of it, is that enough for Villa fans? I'm not sure. It's a big club, but to stay in the league this season is obviously really important. How much they struggled early on in the season. Like I say, 4 wins in 5, and going to Southampton, it's obviously a tough game, but they'll fancy the chances because they've been decent, certainly in recent weeks.
Yeah, I think considering how the season went and how poor they were under Lambert, I think they probably will take it if they can finish 14th. I think that'll be a decent finish for them, and certainly. Good signs going into next season, considering how quick the turnaround has been under Sherwood. So good signs for next season, and specifically if we look at Jack Grealish, he's been a really good player for them. Personally, I think the talk about there's all the international talk. There's it's just come out recently that he turned down the chance to play for the Republic of Ireland in their recent internationals, and he's played for the Republic of Ireland at youth level, but obviously being sort of born in England, he could represent England as well. And people saying, who should he side his international allegiance with? Personally, I think it's too premature, all this international talk. He's had a sort of run of a few good games, but he's still only 19 years old, and he's not the finished product yet. He did really well to set up the goal, the winner against West Ham, but personally, I think he needs a good few months. He sort of needs to do what say Harry Kane did and sort of prove his really good form over an extended period of say 4 or 5 months, not just do it over a month. And he's still quite young, and I do wonder if all this talk about internationals is premature. But obviously being young is a lot of potential, but for the time being I think he just needs to progress, focus on his club play, and maybe wait for the international chance, because I think all this talk about who he should play for is a little bit premature.
Certainly an exciting prospect, that's for certain. Moving on to Southampton, not in great form at the moment. Last time out against Leicester, to be fair, Leicester are absolutely flying, aren't they, especially at home, and a couple of goals from Mahrez that game, and Southampton actually played quite well in that game, obviously 1-0 down quite early on, and the second goal came, but it was one of those games where Southampton a lot of the ball they've had this season, haven't they? But not really too much probing in the final third, which was disappointing. Ronald Koeman in that certain game. But like I say, going to Leicester early in the season, they'd have fancied their chances, but Leicester in such good form. No winning 4 now as well, 1 point from 12. So sitting in 7th. They've never really been in the top 4 race, but they've really dropped out of sort of that in the last few months, haven't they? Obviously had a good season, but in danger of dropping to 8th. Obviously top 7 would be Europa League if Arsenal win the cup final against Villa, so that's obviously important. I think Koeman's obviously talks about Europa League as well. For some clubs it isn't that important, but you feel it is for Southampton because it'd be a big step forward for them. But in danger of dropping to 8th, only they're a point above the 8th at the moment. Swansea are absolutely flying at the moment. Swansea, they win their last couple of games. Southampton drops some points, falling to 8th, and 8th on the face of it's still decent, but from where they were, it will be quite disappointing.
Yeah, I think, like you say, a club like Southampton, some teams like Spurs who think maybe that the Europa League might have sidetracked them from their push to the top 4 in the league. But I think for a team like Southampton, and don't get into Europe very often, it would be a great achievement for them to get into the top 7. And if they do finish 7th, they'll certainly be rooting for Arsenal in the final. Because if Villa win, obviously they get that Europa League spot. So certainly an interesting sequence. But I think they'll be glad to return home here. You mentioned that they've had a really poor run of form, but at home they're actually unbeaten in 4 games. Winning 3, drawing 1. So they've been decent at home recently, and there's sort of good news sort of in terms of players around the club at the moment. There's Jay Rodriguez. He just recently signed a new contract, 4 years until 2019. Obviously he hasn't played at all this season because of that terrible injury he had right at the end of last season, but very promising young player, and he's sort of getting back towards full fitness. Morgan Schneiderlin could be fit for this one. He's missed the last 2 games, and James Ward-Prowse as well. He was suspended after that red card at Sunderland, so he comes back for this, Schneiderlin comes back, that certainly boosts the midfield. And I think this is a massive game for Southampton because obviously we talked about Villa wanting to secure safety, but like you say, the European thing is massive for Southampton. And I certainly fancy their chances at home against Villa because their last game of the season is away at Manchester City, so that's obviously a really tough one. You know, the way City are playing and obviously the way Aguero's playing at the moment. So I think they'll view this as a must-win game because going to City on the last day of the season is not an easy place to get anything. So they want to get 3 points here and hope that that's enough to get them that seventh place.
They will want to get 3 points. And Villa, what I mentioned, is in good form, but lost 8 of their last 10 on the road. So that's something Shell would obviously want to improve on, certainly for this one. What's your score prediction for this one?
I think it's a really tough game to call because obviously Southampton, they've been in poor form, Villa have been in great form at the moment, but in terms of the quality in both squads and where they're on the table, you'd say that Southampton should start as favourites, but I think it's a really even game sort of going into it, and so I'm going to have to pick a draw in that case, so I'm going to go for a 1-1.
1-1, I'm actually going to completely agree, yeah, like I say, Villa, two teams got something to play for, but Villa probably, got a little bit more to play for, purely because they're saying they're going to win and obviously keep them up, point might do as well, depending on other results. So both back in 1-1 draws in this one. Thanks for joining us.